go subscribe. Once the live is up, I'll put in the description a link to Regie Collects Comics. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe, and you can get more details when it's released, hopefully in a month or so, for Garage Con later on in the year. Okay, so I've made some bad decisions buying and selling comic books. Can you share one where it was a good investment or a good experience? It doesn't have to be all about money, but a good experience buying and selling, and a bad experience when you bought or sold.
Yeah, I'll give you one that doesn't necessarily involve selling. Let's do it this way.
Okay.
So I sent a book in to CGC because I believed that the book was going to be a hot book, right? The book had a value of around $1,000, right? Which is not chump change, right? I sent the book in, figured it was going to be a 9.0, send it off to CGC. Because of the current turnaround time, again, at the third-party grader, by the time the book came back, its value had fallen to $400. So it's like, okay, that hurt, and so I said that it's not a story about selling because I don't want to sell it, because I think that it still has some potential, because it is a book that has some significance. So now I'm sitting on what was $1,000 book that is now a $400 book. You know what I'm saying? So that's sitting there. I would say from the good side, as I mentioned, I came back into the hobby at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. I didn't really have any major books, and I went on a little bit of a buying spree. Like, I literally was buying whatever awesome key I could possibly afford without putting myself or my family in a bad situation, right? So X-Men 1, which is, the first appearance of the X-Men. I bought Amazing Spider-Man issue number 129, the first appearance of the Punisher, right? So I bought a lot of really wonderful books. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 50, gorgeous red cover book. And what has happened is that the value of these comics has gone up so much over these last couple of years. It's almost one of those things of, no matter what you pay, you're probably in a very good position right now, where potentially your portfolio, if you want to call your collection a portfolio, has potentially more than tripled in value. Now, I will tell you, the one regret that I have is that in some cases, I could have bought a better book, a slightly higher grade for a couple of more bucks, but I was being cheap. So it is like that. That's my bad story, my good story, and my one regret, that I didn't spend, another $200, $300 to buy a book that is probably worth thousands more today.
Yeah, it's just I see the collection that I have, and it's like, wow, it's crazy when you look at these numbers. I don't look very often, but when I do look, it's jaw dropping.
Yeah.
So if somebody was going to start collecting comic books, what kind of advice would you have to somebody that isn't in the whole comic book game, but they want to start? What kind of advice would you give them?
That's really tough, right? Are we looking at investors? Are we thinking investors first?
Investors. Let's go with investors.
So if we're thinking about investors, what I would tell you is to do your research. Just like a stock or a cryptocurrency or an NFT, you have to do your research to know what it is that you're actually buying. Because like in our market, there are a lot of things that influence values. So if you're just paying attention to the value without understanding what's driving that value, you have the potential to buy a big mistake. I call it a brick. You will catch a brick if you don't understand what you're buying. So I think doing your research is important. The second thing I would say to you is, you have to understand the significance of the comic that you are buying. Buying first appearances of heroes typically is going to be better than first appearances of villains. Buying Silver Age, i.e. older comics, potentially is going to be a little safer than buying a modern comic. Now, a Silver Age comic might be considered a blue chip stock, for example, whereas your modern comic may be more like a penny stock. You have a lot of volatility, you have a lot of upside, but you also have some downside, right? So like the Black Chrysanthemum, which is a character that just appeared in the Boba Fett Disney Plus streaming service. That book is super hot right now. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that book may not be hot. So if you buy that book right now for $300, you may lose $300 come 2 weeks. Whereas if you're buying a Silver Age book associated with a hero, and I'm just making this up like Spider-Man, you might be better off with that older Silver Age book than the modern Black Chrysanthemum who appeared in Boba Fett just last week, right? So does that help? Like, do your research, know what you're buying, know what the significance of that is, and then think about what you're trying to do. Are you trying to just make some quick money, or are you trying to make long-term money? Like, you got to think about some of this stuff before you spend. It is easy to spend money. It is much harder to earn money and to keep money.
Also, I say be careful with variant covers. I know people like to go hard on variant covers. I would say, you know, be careful with the variant covers.
Completely agree.
You know,
and again, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you're just buying it for the art, buy what you buy, buy what you want. But if you're trying to make money, preserve money, then you potentially want to look at something that has a track record of performance. Right. And I once did a video in which I looked at the 40-year performance of some major blue chip comics. And what we saw is that the value of those comics was relatively flat for the first 10 years after it was released. And then it started to go up after that. Like there was within a year variability or volatility with value, but generally speaking, year upon year, the value of those comics increased. You have a track record to look back at. You also have, more importantly, a fan base that loves that character, that invests in that character, that wants that character's first appearance. Unlike a book that came out last week that becomes hot because of something getting optioned or something appearing in a TV program, there may not be enough substance below it, enough fan base to support the value of that thing long term. So you can make some quick money, but it may not be the long term. There's a reason why I went after Silver Age keys. Your Amazing Fantasy 15, your Hulk 1, your X-Men 1, your Daredevil 1. There's a reason for that, right? And I still occasionally buy new comics. I still enjoy reading them, but I don't look at new comics or variants for that matter, like in honesty. I don't look at them as investments. They are something that I buy to enjoy. Right. If it becomes valuable later on, great, but that's not what I'm doing it for.
It's an extra bonus.
It's an extra bonus. Like back in the day when I bought comics, I bought them for entertainment purposes, but I took care of them because I believed that there was some potential there, you know, and I still look at new comics that way. I buy them to enjoy them, and maybe there's some potential there.
Absolutely. That's why I bought my comic book. Same deal. And, you know, and here we are still, you know, bunch of long boxes of comics. All right. So, all right.
I got a lot of long boxes and short boxes. Let me tell you.
This closet is exploding over here.
So someone over here, can I answer this question over here, Joey, real quick?
Yes.
So someone, Dokta Strange, I think that's what that said, or is it Dokta Strange?
Dokta Strange.
Okay. That O is throwing me off. Was Regie able to identify the catalyst that drove down the cost of the book over the course of the months? You know, it's a Star Wars book. It's a Star Wars book. And so I think that it just has to do with the volatility associated with Star Wars right now, the ebbs and flow of it, the speculation that comes with somebody being super excited about something that was announced that then doesn't come to fruition. I think that that's part of it. I didn't pay a whole lot of money for the book, so I don't feel bad. It's more of like, I'm not losing money. I'm just making less money. Therefore, I'm going to sit on it for the potential of making more money later on, right? If that makes sense. Like, I didn't pay a whole lot of money for it. You know, one of the things that I see people do is a book gets hot, they go and buy it. And buying a hot book to make money is probably not the best thing, right? Because you're buying it when everyone else is buying it, pushing the price up. I call it the red ocean versus blue ocean, right? You want to buy a book when it's blue ocean, when people are not paying attention to it, when they're not buying it. You want to anticipate the market and be ahead of it so that when everybody catches up, they're paying the red ocean price, but you bought it for the blue ocean. That's how you make money. If you buy it red ocean, how much higher does it have to go for you to actually make meaningful money if you buy it when it's super hot? I think people just got to think about that.
For sure. For sure. So, okay. So what about your favorite sport? Are you into sports at all?
Absolutely not.
No sports. That's it.
No. So I mean, I'm a former professional bodybuilder from the IFBB, right? International Federation of Bodybuilding, right? I did that for a number of years. I don't consider bodybuilding a sport. You know, it's an activity, it's a hobby, it's not a sport. Growing up, I played softball, basketball, I ran track. I was never great. I was never great at those things. I grew up mostly with my mother and then later on with my stepfather. Sports was just never my jam, just never my jam.
So you mentioned bodybuilding, obviously hardcore, you know, before you were next level. So what I have to say, because years ago I was a gym rat. I was, you know, into fitness, and that my diet went with it. Like I was strict, like, you know, obviously with what I ate. So I'm curious, what is your favorite food and snack?
So my favorite food is a toss up between sushi and burgers. Like I've had 2 burgers today. And to be, I seriously, my wife wasn't here. I was like, I'm throwing some burgers on the grill. I had 2 burgers. I had one, and then a couple of hours later, I had the second one. Burgers and sushi, that's my jam. And what, I couldn't remember the second part of your question. What was the second part?
And snack, your favorite snack?
Oh, chips all day.
Just
All
which
day.
kind?
I'm more of a spicy chip guy. So like these jalapeno kettle chips. I don't know what they're called. My wife's love language is inventory. And what I mean by that is that whatever you like, she's bought it, and she's bought a lot of it. I don't even know what they're called. I just go in the pantry, or the snack machine is what my kids call it. I go in there, I have my chips, I'm good. But they're jalapeno kettle chips, and I love them, you know. But any chip, man, Doritos, it really doesn't matter. But my favorite are spicy chips. That's my jam.
Ooh, yes, I love spicy chips too.
Yeah. I mean,
right,
you know, it's one of those things. I want to eat them until I get my head sweats. I want the sweat to run. I call it the meat sweats. Like you eat a bunch of meat, you get sweat. And so it's either the meat sweats from burgers and beef, or it's chips. I want to sweat.
You know, I wasn't gonna even mention this, but I put hot sauce on my chip. Like I would literally, this is what I do. I hold it up, put 2, 3, bam, one after another, bam.
So, Joey, I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. I've been known. I'm a connoisseur of the hot sauce, brother. I have multiple hot sauces that I use because I'm a big fan of that, man. I will put hot sauce on popcorn, on chips, on burgers, on fries, on eggs. Like I like ketchup and I like hot sauce, and I like these are the things. We're getting down into the nitty gritty of like the stuff that I really enjoy. What's crazy is I'll go into the snack machine and I'll be in there eating chips. You know, you go in to get a chip, a couple of chips, man, 20 minutes later, I'm still in there eating chips. My wife comes in. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just having a chip. She's like, you've been in here 20 minutes. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The chips are good. I don't know what to say, you know?
All right. Okay. I really like asking this question.
Chip sweats.
Oh man, you're making me want chips right now. Okay, so we jump in the DeLorean, throw on the flux capacitor. We're gonna travel through time. We're gonna go to 3 times. One before you were born, anytime before you were born, to go experience, see something during your life. You know, you want to go back, revisit, maybe something you missed out on, and then something you anticipate in the future. So something before, during, and after your life.
Oh man. So, if we could do something before, I think a lot of my answers are probably going to revolve around my family, to be honest with you. So my mother had me when she was 17. So I grew up with great grandparents. My great grandparents used to watch me at various points in the summer, when mom had to work and I was out of school. So if I could go back in time, I would go back to spend some time with my great grandfather. His name was Bud. They called him Bud. His real name was Arcelius. And my great grandfather taught me how to throw baseballs, even though I never really got into sports. But I remember sitting with him on the porch, him listening to the radio, him smoking, and him teaching me how to throw baseballs. And then we used to work in his garage. He had a lot of land, and we used to go in his garage. And whenever I visited, I had a piece of wood that was mine. So I would drill holes in it and I would nail it, and he would let me play with the toys, and that was mine. You know what I'm saying? I painted it one time like gray because he painted the porch gray. So I would go back and hang out with my grandfather, and while I was doing that, I would probably hit up a comic shop and buy a bunch of stuff. Completely honest, brother. I'm buying all the comics. Okay. I'm taking the pop bottle money, because in Michigan we call it pop, and it's correct because the bottles are worth 10 cents. I would take all the pop bottle money, go to Mr. C's in Roseville, Michigan, and then I'm going to the comic book store up the street and buying all the comics. Okay. The second period in my life, I would probably go back to a period where my grandmother was still alive. My grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, and my grandmother was basically like a second mother. I remember when my grandmother was the age that I am now. Like, that's how long I've been around. You know what I'm saying? My mom was 17. I remember when my grandmother was 45,
Wow.
right? I would go back and kick it with my grandmother. I was able to spend one final day with my grandmother before she passed away. I went to Michigan. I hung out with her. We went to a comic shop. I drove her around, and I got her, like, she wasn't eating much. And I was like, what do you want? And she was like, I want a chicken sandwich. Got her a chicken sandwich. She was like, I want these hard candies. It's like, I'm going to get you these candies. She was in the hospital by this point. So I get her hard candies. I bring it back to her, root beer candies. And that was like the last time we spent together. You know what I'm saying? Me and Granny hanging out. And that's what we used to do back in the day. Just me and my grandmother hanging out. I would do that again. And I would buy all the comics. I would definitely buy all the comics. And then if I could go to the future, man, I think I would want to see how my children turn out. Right. Because I'm 45. My children are 7 and about to be 5. There is a chance that I will not see them in their 40s. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I would want to go to the future to see how they turn out, because I think that would be a very special moment. You know what I'm saying? To see, because as a parent, as a father, my job is to get you from childhood to adulthood, and to try to help you be happy and well-rounded, not rich, not necessarily successful, but happy and well-rounded and contributing to society. Like, no serial killers, no kids on the pole, none of that kind of stuff. We want well-rounded children. I would go to the future and I would see my kids. That's what I would do.
That's a good one. That's a good one. We're a similar age. Our kids are about the same age. So that's, very, very interesting. Dr. Strange also in the chat. We're all the same age. Okay, so we're here on the home stretch. If for whatever reason you haven't gone and subscribed to Regie Collects Comics, best comic book content creator, and you got GarageCon coming later on this year. The announcement will be next month. So go subscribe, because you're gonna miss out on a lot of content.
We got a lot of stuff coming, brother. I'm telling you right now, a lot of stuff.
Okay, awesome. So please go subscribe, and it'll be linked in the description. Okay, so if you have 3 wishes, what would they be?
That's hard. Are we gonna make it like, we want to narrow that down a little bit? You want to narrow it, take it, like, what do you want to do? Because I can get all emotional up in here, right?
Let's get emotional. I like emotion.
Almost lost it when I was talking about my grandmother, I'm gonna be honest. All right, so if I had 3 wishes, what I would probably wish for is to have the most amazing collection ever. And I'm not going to define what that is, right? I will tell you that I have some very specific goals for my collection that involve books that I already own, but higher grades of them. And then there's a lot of additional Silver Age and Golden Age comics that I would want in my collection. So I would say that. I'll make one about my channel, one of my wishes about my channel. I have a lot of plans for things that I want to do for and around my channel. And some of it actually involves NFTs. It would be amazing to see that come to fruition. Like, we've had some amazing success, right? We wrote a book, we had a first and second print, and we sold 4,000 copies of the Guide to Smart Comic Collecting. 4,000 copies. It's my understanding that the Overstreet Guide, which is a really reputable source for comics, only sells about 10,000. I sold 4,000 copies. There's bigger stuff like that I want to do that I would love to see come to fruition. And then the third wish, I don't know. Let's make it. We're gonna make it super relevant. Super relevant. I would want the current backlog that exists at all collectible related companies to suddenly be erased. Everybody's book is now in the outer area of these facilities, ready to be shipped to your house. And I'm talking PSA, CGC, CBCS, like you name it. If you're in the world of collectibles, your backlog has been wiped clean. Your slate is clean. All the books are ready to be shipped out. That would be awesome for everybody. I think I would tank the market with that wish as well.
Right, because everybody's selling.
Everybody's selling, I think I would take the market, but that's like the biggest pain point right now for us as collectors. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about trading cards or Pokemon cards or sports cards or comics. We're all suffering. We're all like, these turnaround times are redunculous, and I would want that to go away.
I sent comic books out to CGC and I could have had a fourth baby by now. Yo, Reggie, this is ridiculous. I love that. You know what? You should be president for that, man. That's right there. Bro, for real. Oh, my Lord. Okay.
Man, I had to make it super relevant. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a little beyond with the previous question, so I had to bring it back. But I would do that, man. And it would be awesome, because I can tell you, I have books at CGC right now and CBCS that I can't even remember what they look like. Like legit. Like, what did I send to you? Can you refresh my memory?
You give me an itemized list because I forgot.
No, I'm being honest. Like, I honestly can't. Like, my philosophy with grading books is to send it in and forget it. Like, I literally do. And I cannot remember what some of the stuff is. I'm like, I think I have this book. And I'm like, where is it? And I'm like, oh, I think I sent that off. Like, I would want to erase that. And I think that there would be a lot of collectors out there that are extremely happy that they have their stuff back,
For sure.
Oh my, he said, oh, I remember those hard root beer. That is exactly what I'm talking about. That is exactly what my grandmother wanted. And they are disgusting. They're disgusting, but that's what that woman wanted. And I went to multiple places to find these little nasty candies, and she absolutely loved them. But I will tell you, my grandmother's last weekend was a good weekend.
That's
a good weekend. You know what I'm saying?
I personally like those candies.
I don't know what to tell you, brother. Them joints are nasty. So my mother walks in. My mother was over the other day. She walks in and she says, Reggie, do you see these candies? She was like, do you know what they're called? And she was like, do you remember what Granny used to call them? So I'm talking about what we call little Granny. right? Big Granny is my great grandmother, what Big Granny used to call these. And I looked at her and I was like, nasty? Like my mother was eating, I was like, those joints are nasty, but here's my mother becoming her mother. And more than likely, I'm going to become the male version of her, because we are our parents. We are our parents and our children are us. And it's all wonderful,
It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, my wife hates root beer. I love root beer. Like I'm a fanatic with root beer. So that when you mention the candies, I'm like, yeah, man, I love them. You hate them.
If you had pulled one out, I would have died.
No, man. Man. Oh, it's supposed. But yeah, my wife, she hates root beer. So okay. All right. So I just want to ask 2 questions, and I know we're here at our time, but I really wanted to ask if you believe in aliens first. Do you believe in aliens? No aliens.
No.
Okay. And then moving on, the last question I want to ask is, what is something surprising about you that will maybe the average viewer doesn't know about you?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I mean, I've revealed so much already, in terms of my mother having me when she was 17, me having, a couple of degrees, including an MBA. The fact that I was a bodybuilder, I think that's one of the more interesting things about me. I would say one that I think I've mentioned is that I'm also an introvert. I'm very much an introvert. I find my energy not from engaging with people, but from being alone with my own thoughts. That is my jam. I can be in my own head, and maybe it's because for 6 years I was an only child. Maybe it's just how I was raised, but I'm very content being by myself. But I have a job that requires me to be extroverted, and I engage in content creation, which requires me to be extroverted. And I do it, and I think I do it well. But my general disposition is being introverted. And I don't think people fully appreciate that about me because they see me talking and being animated and that kind of stuff. But yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else that people don't really know, to be honest.
Man, that's interesting that you're introverted, but yet, I mean, wow.
But here's the thing is, as again, my job I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, biotech sales rep for 6 years. My job was to go to doctors' offices and engage them in a clinical conversation. That was my job. And as I've mentioned, I want to be successful. I'm like an A-type personality. So even if that's not my thing, I'm going to do it because I want to be good at it. Right. So I did it. I did it for a number of years. I went back, I got my MBA and went into marketing. And so if you're going to stand on the stage in front of as many as 500 sales reps who talk to doctors, you need to have some confidence and you need to be able to go up there and deliver, and a lot of my interactions with doctors and those skills that I honed over years, my ability to go on stage and to talk to people and communicate what's in my head, right? Be able to communicate it to them and get them excited and passionate about it. Those skills lend themselves to what I do as a content creator, right? I tell stories instead of in slide deck form or whatever. I tell stories verbally and with video and animation. You know what I'm saying? But the big thing is I'm also just talking to a camera. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes with no one watching, but it's like I do a camera and then I clip it and I put it out there in the world. But yeah, me being an introvert is probably one of the things that surprises a lot of people.
For sure.